Hey guys, it's Ben Robinson and Matt Hatton, sales engineers at Sweetwater with Nick from Akai. Let's see what we got.
So we have here the Akai Force. This is our first standalone performance workstation. We designed Force to bridge the gap between how electronic music is created and performed, between the intuitive touch interface, the 64 velocity sensitive pads, the integrated synth engines, and hundreds of ways of playing melody and harmony. We believe that this has all of the tools and workflows that make performing music simpler than ever. I'm going to start by going over the hardware. So I'll just give you an overview of the hardware and then I'll dive into the features a little bit more. Sure. So the first thing is you have a 7-inch multi-touch color display. Now this is really the brain of Force, the computer. It operates separately from the pads, so you can do things like jump in and out of record, launch clips and scenes on the screen while recording notes and everything on the pads. To the left of the pads, you have your essential controls like your volume, transport, main menu, as well as key screen modes like your browser, matrix mode, clip, mixer, all of which I'll explain in a minute. On the right-hand side, you have a clickable endless encoder that we call the data dial. This offers a tactile alternative to the touchscreen. And whatever you have selected on the screen, you can adjust parameters with the data dial. And the same goes for the plus minus buttons here. It's just a button alternative to that. Then you have a crossfader, which can be assigned to any single track. So you can assign tracks to side A and side B. Below the screen, you have 8 assignable Qlink controls, and these can control every parameter on every single track instrument, as well as user assignable configurations. Below that we have the heart, which is the 64 velocity sensitive pads. This functions in 3 primary modes. You have launch mode, which will launch audio and MIDI clips. You have notes mode, which will allow you to play drums, melody, and harmony. And then you have step mode, which turns the pads into a step sequencer. And there's a few different modes, which I'll explain here as well. Below that, you have quick edit buttons. This allows you to quickly select, edit, or copy certain notes. So if I'm over on a drum track, I could copy different drum pads. I'll show you that again in a minute. You have an arpeggiator built in with a ton of different modes. You have a dedicated tap tempo button, which also adjusts the master tempo when held down. And then these buttons right here will change the behavior of the bottom row of the buttons. So I can assign it to mute the track, solo the track. You can also cue, so you can change the solo to a cue, so I could cue an individual drum if I wanted to. And then you have record arm and clip stop. On the right hand side, I have a master, and I'll show you that when I get into the mixer, stop all clips, and then I can launch scenes. So let's get back up to the screen. Okay. Starting with the browser. So you're gonna start your project inside of the browser, and this is split up into 6 main categories. You have audio clips, which are pre-synced clips, vocals, just any type of audio clip that comes. We wanted to make sure that there was plenty available for you. So there's drums in there, bass lines, chord progressions, etc. You have instruments, and there's 4 instruments that come with it. These are of the Air collection. You have bass line, electric, tube synth, and a new synth that we call Hype. Then you have MIDI clips, which will be bass lines and again chord progressions, but these can be loaded up into your launch matrix and control one of the synthesizers. Then you have drum kits, just keeps on going and going and going. All of the different contemporary electronic music styles are in there. However, they cross-pollinate really well, so you can take something from the grime kit and work it into a house track if you want to. They're not like so specific. Then you have individual samples and of course projects. Next you have save. So the save button is one of my favorite features, just because you don't save your project, you're done. It's the first thing that when I walked into recording school, it was written on the whiteboard, Apple S, and I can't tell you how many times I didn't press Apple S. So having the save button is not to be overlooked as a big feature. You have Matrix, which will give you an overview of your entire project with an 8x8 view of your clips. So you can see here it matches, so the colors and everything will match because I'm on my launch mode. So I can select different tracks here. I could launch a specific clip. I could launch a scene. I can see relevant track information like the tempo, the key that it's in. I can set my launch quantization here as well, and I can change the scale from major to minor if I wanted to. Then I have clip view. This gives you a more detailed view of your clip. There's depending on the type of clip that you have. So right here, this is a drum clip. So on my first track, I have my drum information. Pad A1 would be the lowest left, so that's my kick drum, snare drum, etc. And then on a track that has melody or harmony, you're going to see the piano roll on the side. And for an audio track, you're going to see the actual audio clip. So I can edit my audio in MIDI right here on the touch interface. So I have an audio clip here. I can set a couple of slices, and I can reverse, mute, or even move this particular area around, which is a lot of fun. And if I'm on a drum track, I can select specific MIDI notes and delete them, move them around, really edit the start point, edit the end point, transpose them, change the velocity. So all of the editing can be done with the touch interface. But again, you have a tactile alternative to adjust things as well with the data dial. Then you have your mixer. So this is the volume mixer. I'll show you this real quick. So you have all of the readouts that are happening there. I can go into my pan and volume as well, and this gives you more detail. So you can see if it's in the Q mix, you can turn on automation, you can turn on recorder, enable. The relevant information is displayed on the top, same as in matrix view. So you can see the track name, the type of track it is, which side of the crossfader it's assigned to, if it's muted or soloed, all of that. You can adjust the sends, and then you also can adjust the inserts. So it comes with the Air effects collection. So if I select one of these and go down, you have all of the different Air effects. My favorite's the filter. And then you have the graphic interface that comes up with that as well. So it's not just the archaic red readout that we had on the MPC. Much more pretty to look at. And what's also cool about this is you have your master section as well. So if I press the master button down here, now you're going to have your sends and returns as well as the outputs. You can see I have some effects on to my master output as well as some effects on my sends. So that's the mixer, very familiar. Then you have your navigate. So this will again give you an overview of your project, but instead I can use the touch interface to navigate around. Now I don't have a giant project here. There's you can have up to 16 tracks on the Force. You can also use the cursors here. They'll move one track at a time or one row at a time, or if I hold down shift, it'll move 8 at a time, or to the beginning or the end of the project, depending on how big it is. So if I only have like 12 tracks, it'll move to track 12. Below that, I have 8 Qlink controls. Now these function in a few different modes. So I have the ability to have them assigned to master mixer functions. So now each track volume is going to be displayed on the screen. Same with pan and sends 1 through 4. I can also set it to screen. So if I'm on screen mode and I go over to my hype synth here, depending on which tab that I have selected down here, the knobs will control every parameter. And some of these have multiple pages. So I have 2 pages here. So if you press the knob buttons, it'll rotate from knobs 1 through 8 to 9 through 16. I can also set this up to control parameters for the specific track. So now I have, and this is pre-mapped. So they picked 16 parameters that they felt like are the most, our sound designers felt like were the most relevant. However, you can change that. And you can do so by holding down shift and knobs to get into that menu. And these are capacitive, so if I touch, you'll see that it'll show up on the screen. And then I have all of the different parameters within that specific track that I can assign to. So if I wanted to move this to the left-hand side, if I'm left-handed, I could do so super easily.
So is that a project save or is that a global save for that?
That's
track?
a project save.
It is project, okay,
right?
per project.
But you can also save the, with the save button, you can save the program, like you can save the actual track, and it will have all of the Qlink information in there already.
Cool.
And lastly, you have the project, right? So for performance, I usually set up filters. So I have all of the different filters for all of my tracks, so I can adjust filters across. And then I have a second page of things I can assign as well. So any track, any parameter can be assigned on the project level. So again, you have screen, which is pre-mapped, can't change. Track, which is pre-mapped, but you can change it on the track level, and then the project level as well. So a lot of versatility, and getting an understanding of how to use the knobs is probably one of the most essential things, because once you gain that control, you really get into controlling it as an instrument. You know, this is a standalone product. You can, there's software control. However, learning and getting used to using it as a standalone product is your workflow gets super, super, super fast the quicker that you understand how to use the knobs.
Right.
Below that you have your 64 velocity sensitive pads, highly sensitive. I'm a drummer, so the first thing that I did was load up a drum kit and see how sensitive they are. They're very sensitive, which is and expressive as well. So launch mode is very simple. It gives you the ability to launch audio and MIDI clips. Now I showed you the different clips when I was going over the clip mode. So simply just press the pad and it will launch that clip. Now each column represents a track, and each row represents a different section of the song, essentially. So you're basically like it is in Ableton, right? So if I want to launch a different section of the song, just boom, right there. And I have my project set up right now to where there's 3 key scene launches, and then everything else in between is clip launching. So like I don't necessarily always want to be launching scenes, so sometimes I'll launch at the beginning, and then I'll launch these couple clips afterwards, and then get into my next scenes. So there's some thought that goes into how you want to arrange it. However, if you can start a project from scratch even if you wanted to. Next you have your notes mode, and in notes mode, I'll start on drums. So you'll see I have a drum track here, and similar to MPC, it'll populate a 4x4 grid. However, you're not constrained to this. Right, so I have my kick snare. So say I have a sample that I want to break out. It's super simple to do so. And you can do that using the quick edit buttons. So I can silently select a pad. Right, so if I'm in a performance, I'm not always going to want to hear.
Audition it,
exactly, audition it. Or I could edit. So when I hit edit, it will jump here, right? And that'll actually be the same whenever once I'm in edit mode, that will always show up on the screen. Okay. But this is the part that's cool, right? So I can copy, and I can kind of paint out the sample. So now I have all of my hi-hats right here, and I could adjust, the pitch, or I could add effects to this specific sample, or I could add any of the sends and delays, and all of this is independent, right? And what's also cool is it's the same sampler that's on the MPC. Okay. Right? So now I have a 64 pad MPC sampler. I can add the different velocity, different layers of samples as well. So on one drum kit, there's a potential of having 512 samples in here. So, I mean, just imagine that, you know what I mean? Like, if you think you've gone deep, you can dig a little deeper, right? You know what I mean? So, well,
that'd be cool too if you did like a chord for a pad or a key part. You could do a whole entire song just from pads. Right?
Absolutely.
It's every chord in the scale, essentially, right?
Absolutely. So you can program it like that, but we plan on evolving these modes, right? So that's the main thing. This product is going to continue to improve, and I think right now we have all of the features that you could possibly want on a product, and it's a matter of fine-tuning the workflows and making sure that the user experience is as good as possible.
So does this have the note repeat and
absolutely
velocity? Right?
Absolutely, right? So note repeat is going to be accessed within the Arpeggiator. So if I turn on my ARP, there it is, right? Okay. Simple as that.
Where's the division for that? Does that come on the screen?
That comes up, if I'm in this mode, I can hold down note and adjust it here on the screen, and you'll notice that the latency is really fast. I think that was one of the things that worried me at first. It's like, okay, there's no dedicated buttons, but the latency is like lightning fast. So you can get the same type of rolls if you want to input hi-hats or do those type of things. Very simple. So this is for drums, but let's check out an instrument. So here I have a hype synth, and the way I have it set up right now is on progressions. So a progression is 16 chords within an octave. So the way I have it set up as well, so I'll show you. I'll go into notes mode, and first I'll hold this down so you can actually see the main screen. So this is the note mode. I have chromatic, scales, harmonize, which will give me like 135, 125, voicings within the scale, right? So like say, let's go to that real quick. Let's go to harmonize. So I'm on the natural minor scale. Oops.
So it works like pad perform mode.
Okay.
It'll give me a 1-2-5 voicing, 1-3-5-7, 1-3-5 the flat 7.
Okay.
You know what I mean? All that will be there. Then I have chords, which will give me a major, minor chord. And then I have progressions, and this is what I started my project on. So this is the root note.
Okay.
And then 16 chords that work well together across.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
And then stacked up in octaves as well. My favorite mode is in scales and then start on root. So the pad rows, you can change this, and there's some familiar modes like you'd see on other products, right?
Sure.
Start on third, or start on the fourth, and that's going to be start on the fourth interval of the natural minor scale. If I set this to chromatic, this is also something
that's familiar, yeah.
Right? But this is one that's unique to Force, at least right now. It's the start on root, and if we go to scales, now I have, you can kind of see how it works here. You have the octave, and then each of these is notes within the scale, so check this out. Such a cool way of playing a scale, and it changes, right? So now I'm on the natural minor, but if I wanted to go like the Dorian scale.
You can almost do manual arts too with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty easily, you know.
Totally, man. I mean, this is this presents a way that I've never played on the pads before. Like being able to strum and play harmony like this it's great. And even if you're a pianist, or somebody that you can play chromatically, that this still has
still a wide range.
Yeah,
you know?
it has its purpose. And if you set it to harmonize or chords, I mean, that's physically impossible to do on any other instrument. You know what I mean? Or any other, you need that like assistance. So there could be new styles of playing that develop through this.
And it seems like I haven't really seen the pad controller that sensitive either, that you can just barely touch it and drag across, or would they'd all trigger.
Well, I mean, it's also the way that the pads are, the amount of lift right off of the bed, and the separation, the space in between the pads really makes it possible to play like this, to where you could probably do it on other interfaces, but just like the simplicity and like again the sensitivity is something that we're really excited about. I think that our designers have nailed that. And just the industrial design in general of this product is very solid. This is our most unique product that we've put out since the original MPC. And we want to make sure that someone goes out and buys the Force, that this thing's going to last. That isn't stand the test of time. You know what I mean? So you're going to be able to turn this thing on 10 years down the road and have it work. Right. You know what I mean? I won't go as far as 30 because you just never know. But I mean, the MPC 60s are still working. So you have to take that in consideration. And that was 80s design. This is current, contemporary, modern design. So you can imagine it definitely is built to last. So let me move on, right? So we have a step sequencer as well, and the step sequencer operates in 3 different modes. So you have drum mode. So if I go to a drum track, the lower left quadrant's going to be my drums, so I can still perform them out, but you'll see as I play around, the different steps will show up. And then I can choose the velocity that I want here. So if it's on blue, that means as I input MIDI notes, however hard that I actually press them is what's going to show up. But if I wanted to do like say it's like your 16 levels on the MPC, right? And then it's all going to input at whatever velocity that I have selected, okay? And you can see it's very responsive. It's not like you have to press it 2 times. It's there. You can paint it in.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
That's the way I like to put it. You can paint it in. And then you have melodic mode, right? And you saw that as I held this down, right? This is the first 8, second 8, page 3. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's the first 8 steps, and then it moves on like that.
How many steps can you do total?
As long as it is.
You can? Okay.
Yeah. So if you have like a 32 bar, it'll populate the whole thing.
Okay, cool.
I think that's probably an ineffective way of using the step sequencer, but hey, you know, everyone has their own ways of using technology, so who am I to discriminate?
Right.
Yeah, so when we're talking the melodic mode, I can go over to instrument here, and then I can pick my note, I can pick the velocity, and I can input that in the same way. Right, so it's going to be every single note, and then you input the notes individually here.
And again, to do velocity sensitive, when you press that, it's the blue.
The blue one down here. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you have lanes. So lanes will set up. It's probably best illustrated with drums. Yeah, on lanes, it's going to be, these are all of your different drums, kind of like the piano roll here, and then you input the information as it goes, right? So this would be like, I don't know, the hi-hat or something like that, and then it plays through your sequence like that. Right? So those are the different step sequence modes. We went over the quick edits. The arpeggiator, we might as well show you a little bit more on that, because just the arpeggiator is great, man. Let me go back into my progressions here. And let's see, here we got progression. And let's try a couple different ARP modes, right? So I have my regular ARP, and within there I can change variations. So I can, and it might sound like, okay, why would I ever use this now? But if you have like a kick drum going over it, like you really need to add other instruments and they start to come to life, right? And I can choose different patterns as well. So there's a lot, right? So you can get really creative with the arpeggiator. And not only that, we have different actions. So say we went over, there's the regular note repeat, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Or if I wanted to do a pattern, and down here I can select different. So again, there's a lot of these, dude.
Right.
I mean, yeah. So you can spend quite a bit of time just getting familiar with the different patterns. Which is, again, the depth of this product and what comes in it out of the box. It can take you days just to kind of go through all of the sounds and all of the different patterns.
Right. How many sounds do come with it?
There's a 10 gig library, and each of the synths has, I know Hype has over 1,000 presets that come with it in general.
Okay.
So there's the internal library that comes with this has everything that you need. If you can't make music with what comes in it, then practice.
Right.
You know, just take a little bit more time, because the depth of the library is it's just very deep, man.
Is there like a browser for that then too, if you did want to?
Oh, for the actual
selecting presets and sounds and things.
Yes, there is, right? So I showed you the regular browser, but now we have on top here, you can select your preset.
Okay.
And we go back, and then these are all the different presets that we have. And I'll show you some cool ones. I like the tonette scale. Let's do that right here. All right, cool. So let's do it like this. We can switch the right here as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So this synth looks too, I know this is a new synth, but it looks like there's effects built into it that are not just synth effects,
absolutely.
Right? Okay.
So you have your main macro page. This is like you can assign basically the most popular controls. You have filter envelope. This is where you can change the amp envelope, the filter envelope, etc.
Okay.
And then you have different effects, right? So your LFO, distortion. These are kind of just standard insert effects. And then you have your send effects like delay and reverb. And the reverb,
okay.
They sound really great. You can turn them on and off quickly just by pressing the side here.
Okay.
And of course, setup where you can turn it from a poly to a mono synth, and just more finer detailed what you want your mod wheel and all of that to be assigned to as well. And
it looks like you've got a lot of parameters you can tweak, but having the bypasses here just seems to help with workflow, just quick, quick and easy, definitely, especially with preset browsing, so you can be like, that's good, but it's a little too wet for me.
Yeah, and I encourage people to design their own sounds. I mean, if there's over 1,000 presets in it, then you can make some really cool sounds on it.
Is there a limit on the user presets?
No.
Okay.
No. It's matter of really the disc size that you have, right?
Okay.
So I didn't mention yet the the ins and outs. So might as well go there right now.
Right.
In front you have an SD card slot, right? So you can plug in SD memory, and in the back you have two USB inputs. So you can plug in a USB stick, a hard drive. You can actually even install a hard drive inside of this. There's a
like an MPC.
Mm-hmm,
for
exactly,
an SSD.
right? So you can put an
That's
SSD
cool.
drive in there if you want. But you can also plug in a external MIDI controller, right? So if you don't want to use the pads and you want to, you can absolutely just plug in a MIDI controller and operate like that.
Okay.
There's also MIDI in and out and through, so you can plug in an external analog synth if you want to. There's two inputs. They're combination XLR and quarter inch, so you can plug in a microphone or a stereo instrument. There's also four CV outs, so you can control modular gear as well.
So, and what do you use 3 and 4? Outputs 3 and 4, are they just assignable to whatever you'd like at this point?
Whatever you'd like. You can use it as a booth monitor.
Okay.
You can use it as a record out.
Okay.
Or if you have this in Ableton Link, you could Ableton Link it up and just like set up 4 outputs to four inputs in there.
Can you currently assign the metronome out to be out of one of these outputs and not the main? Okay,
absolutely.
Cool. That's a big feature people want.
Yeah, if you go here, metronome out, output, output 3 or output 4. Or
awesome. So you can do mono too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect.
I think I neglected to mention the whatever text is below the buttons is the shift functions, and that's pretty standard, but definitely worth noting. So there's a lot of shift functions in here. Shift navigate will open up your X, Y.
Oh.
No shift matrix yet, which means that we have somewhere to
put something.
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's like the more familiar you become, you're like, okay, well, there's still room for growth there. Shift clip will open up the editing for that particular clip, depending on where it is.
Okay.
Shift mixer will open up the pad mixer for your drum program. So if you have
there's the levels for just the pads.
Just the pads, and again, it's a 128 channel mixer. So if you think that the 16 tracks is limiting, then you just got to open up one of the drum racks, and then boom, there's
you go, right?
128 more channels that you can load stuff into.
That's awesome.
Shift save will automatically save the project, right? So it's just a quick save. Yeah, exactly. Shift record will open up certain record configurations, so on and so forth. There's a lot of secondary functions that come along with the product. And then if you go to the main menu, this is something I haven't shown you yet, you have the same sampler that's an MPC, you have a looper. Your looper, you can select input, so I can put like a compressor on there or like a channel strip or whatever I want and have that stuff going in. So if I plug in a microphone, I can adjust it a little bit, getting it sounding good into my mix. Beatboxers, anyone who uses loop will be able to take advantage of that.
And does it have most of the, I know like MPC8 Live even had like a looper function and things. Does it do that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
so you can loop by recording in to the looper.
Sure.
Or you can just do so by having an audio track and recording in.
Okay.
So recording works very similar that it does in software DAWs with clip launching. So you can just simply record in and then have it play, and it will loop over time. Whatever you record into the Force will automatically warp to the audio, so you can change without adjusting the pitch, vice versa. This product is it's really for any musician. It's not just for the electronic musician, and I think that's important to when you guys are talking to customers, to make that a point. A drummer could have this and play his drum kit and then have all of his other band. I like to think of a track as a band member. You know what I mean? So right here I have my drummer, this is my John Bonham, and I got John Paul Jones, and so on and so forth. And what you can do with this thing is it's special. Imagine it in the DJ booth, right? I have an entire project here. These can be synced together, so I could have 2 of these with a DJ mixer in between, and I can perform a song here. I could have a second person performing his song, or I could be on 2 of them at the same time. You know what I mean? And then I could have a digital DJ player next to that, and I could do a hybrid DJ mix. So it fits within that environment. It fits within a stage environment. You could have an entire band, 4 of these things all linked up via Ableton Link. It's an instrument.
Right.
You know, it's an instrument. You can also record into it. It has, we will be giving the ability to export projects as an ALS file.
Okay.
So whatever you create in here will export or be able to be opened up inside of Ableton. We're still kind of working out the kinks and we don't have it here, but be prepared for that because I'm sure it's going to be one of the main questions. And because the synthesizers that come in are Air Effects and the effects in the synths that are coming with it are also plugins that they should open up very similar to how you're used to.
Okay.
And also there will be an Ableton control mode. So you'll be able to control things like clip launching, playing melody and harmony, and there's even talks about using the step sequencer as well. So we're still working out.
And that's probably a good time to bring it. We've seen, different rumors and things outlined that this is running Ableton, there's open sets and things like that. Can you clear some of that up? It sounds like this is its own thing.
Yeah, this is a standalone product.
Okay,
right?
Okay.
And it can control Ableton, and it has, there's no, I know why people would think that, you know what I mean? I mean, it makes complete sense. But in order to take full advantage of this, it's pardon my French, it's a badass instrument, man.
Right.
I mean, really, to think of it as a controller is limiting.
Right.
And the fact that you can have a bunch of these things synced up it just kind of removes that controller aspect because you're controlling one laptop, and you know what I mean?
Right. It kind of seems to me, just from what we've seen today, it's almost a marriage between MPC Live mixed with what Ableton knows as well. You know, the best of both worlds in a way.
Exactly. Well, we feel like all of the current products out there have, in some sense, a dated workflow. Right? Okay. You know, like when you think about it, a lot of the workflows were created over a decade ago. And this product is new, so we feel like there's an opportunity to create new, smarter workflows. Right. And we're dedicated to do that. I can speak for myself personally. I wake up in the morning, and the reason I work in this industry is I feel like, a lot of science is innovated in university. And you know what I mean? But within the digital technology and digital instrument realm, this industry is innovated within the company. So you take your ideas and you bring them to a company, and then they turn out to be a product like this. So we fully plan on improving this and making it the best instrument on the planet. I mean, that's really the purpose of putting this thing out, and not just to pigeonhole it into one category, but to say, you know what, dude, pads are the future.
Right.
You know what I mean? The black and white keys, the 88 key, I mean, God bless it, but at the end of the day, they were designed because of long strings and short strings. And the fact that you can do the same thing on a more confined instrument, it really creates a new style of playing. And something that we're really excited to see how people adopt this, because we feel like this is the most versatile instrument that we've ever put out.
Well, thank you, Nick, for coming today to show us the Akai Force.
My pleasure.
I really look forward to getting my hands on one myself. If you're interested, call your Sweetwater sales engineer. They'd be happy to answer questions and send you out one.